All right. So, Ali Khan, very stoked to talk to you. Obviously, I follow you online and you're big on the Food Network. You love food. You love showing pictures of food. Every time I see your pictures, I want a brisket taco.
Yeah.
Uh, and we are going to be talking about Spring Baking Championship. I know there's a brand new season and you're going to be hosting. But first, I just want to say hi and how are you doing in life?
You know what? I feel like, it really is about, I feel like saying I'm making lemonade out of lemons doesn't really justify what we've all been going through, certainly. But I feel like there is a certain truth to that because, I'm things are okay. I feel like I'm very fortunate, more fortunate than, fortunately many others. And I think like, it is so funny. I mean, I get to like talk to you on Zoom. Cheers to Zoom. And what's so funny is I don't know how we've been following each other on Twitter for so long, and now like we're doing this thing. It's great. I
I
mean,
know.
we're
I
connected.
know. Did you see that story this week about the guy? It was a bunch of lawyers on Zoom, and one of them had a cat picture. He couldn't figure out how to not make his picture a cat. And it was a really serious meeting. So, hey, points to us for actually knowing how to put our picture on. This is for me, this is big.
It is. I feel like all this stuff is just a fight for me to not become old and irrelevant.
Oh my God. I think that is the best way you could have said that for all of us.
Kind
For
of
all
true.
of us.
And that's why I put tacos on the internet.
As you should, and brisket, and I just want to eat meat all day. Your Instagram, my arteries hurt, but my heart is happy. I don't understand.
It's so funny because I guess what happens is I take pictures of all these indulgent things, and then you do like with everything with the internet, there's the backlash. And I remember like when Cheap Eats first started, people would be like, I feel so sorry for your arteries and your kidney. And I'm like, I appreciate your concern for my organs. Thank you for sharing.
Because they think you eat like that all the time.
Well, that's what's kind of funny. And then what you realize too with this stuff is people kind of, what is very empowering is been like, oh, well, I totally love oatmeal, and that's how I can enjoy the other stuff more. But yeah, I do like, yeah. I mean, I live in Austin. There's brisket and there's tacos and breakfast tacos, and tacos are cool. Tacos are cool because it's indulgent, but it's not like you sign up for a giant meal. You could have some sense of control.
Yes, and I love how much you could personalize them. And it's not just like, meat and chicken anymore. You could do like a banh mi taco. I can't even imagine how many different kinds there are, especially in Austin.
It's so funny. I literally did a Zoom class yesterday with these Oregon berry farmers, and the person who taught the class is this 15-time James Beard author and chef, whatever. And she's like, "Yeah, so we're gonna make." We made a cake with these berries, and then we made this umami sauce with these berries. And then the last thing was like, she called it a shrimp fold over. And I'm like, this is a taco. You know what I mean? But I think it's really funny. Like I'm making the Oregon berry farmers, and the end and the end total of the entire cooking session was making a shrimp taco, and it was awesome. Actually, I should post that soon. I have a backlog of posting. I'm really behind. It's
No,
like
that's when
spring.
you know. That's when you know when you look in your phone and you see the backlog, that's what you love. Whatever the backlogged photos are, or your obsession that you don't know how far to take it online, but they're always there.
I should charge people like a cyber ticket to my Dropbox because I literally do. One day I probably spent probably like close to a week of like organizing all the food pics and Dropbox into categories and stuff like that. Because yeah, there are a lot of meals. It adds up. It
Maybe
really does.
your OnlyFans account could be just food.
Hey, you know what? Everything's cyber these days. Everything's virtual, so why not?
Why
Virtual
not?
tours on my Dropbox.
Sup, ladies? Check my Dropbox.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, yeah. There's a line right now, but just wait. That's
You'll get
really
there.
exclusive. It's like a spinning thing, like
Right.
bad internet or like my Mac computer that I finally got rid of 2 years
Oh,
ago.
all of us. We're all learning at the same time.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Spring Baking Championship. I know we're now in season 7 and you're going to be hosting, which is super exciting. And I love looking at the pictures online because you just look so excited and happy. And I know food is your world, so you're excited and happy anyways. But when it comes to this specific show, what excites you the most about it?
I mean, I'll tell you, like, first it was just look, you know this, when you're in the business of entertainment broadcast, it's a special opportunity to do this kind of work. It just doesn't happen often. And a show for me is Spring Baking Championship. Cheap Eats was a series that kind of like, I guess, put me on the map. And that kind of show is you're out traveling the country, getting into kitchens and food trucks and stuff like that. Spring Baking Championship is like it's like how you imagine the guy who like spent his last $10 from Indianapolis to LA to go into the pearly gates of Hollywood. That's what Spring Baking Championship is like, I'm ready for my close-up Mr. DeMille. It is a grand show, huge sound stage. The first time I ever did the show, we shot in 2017 for season 4. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is intense, And I have a theater background, so playing to the back of the house, being on a giant sound stage it's just in me, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's just talking to like doing some of these interviews, like the chemistry. So when you join a show and you have like essentially an ensemble cast, like it's quite amazing. Like Duff Goldman and Nancy Fuller walk very, very different paths, but they're such great friends and they totally rib at each other, but they love each other. Like you can't, it is, and look, I've worked in this business in all elements. I've worked in casting and stuff like that, and I can appreciate chemistry like that. It's really, really amazing. You kind of think of these people as like chefs and phenomenal home cooks and bakers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it is a joy to see these personalities meld. I mean, I think that's the real magic of the show. And I think, we had a blast, like, what I said about this season? It's like when you go to summer camp, it's nervous, but it's exciting. And at the end of it, you're like, this was great. This was going back to summer camp.
Aww.
Went back to summer camp. I was like, yeah, I get to do it again. And it is a true gift to be able to come back and do something like that. Straight up. That's the truth.
Well, and baking, I'm a terrible chef, so I don't know anything. But baking is another thing, right? Like I've always heard, like when you try to bake, don't even compare it to anything else.
It is absolutely a whole other thing. I mean, I'd say first and foremost, like the science really becomes huge because if you're off on your measurements, it won't work.
Right.
You won't have a cake. And then on top of that, so there's twofold. There's a science element of you must execute. I mean, true science, true chemistry, literally. There's that element. Then there's why I think baking works so great on TV, which is the spectacle, the beauty. I mean, when you do Spring Baking Championship, do these baking shows, they're given like, a couple hours to do it, which seems like, oh, that's a couple hours. When you order a cake from the bake shop for a wedding, they work on that for days.
Yeah.
For days to get the decor in there. And, just to watch, we're doing a repack special and, we have one of the guys talking about piping and stuff. It takes a steady hand. I mean, I can't handwrite anymore. I start off good with the. By the time I get to like whatever the rest of the words are, they like curve and go down. So yeah, there's true, like, there's artistry to it. So that's what's crazy about baking. Hey, hello. Look at this. There's chemistry and artistry are equal parts. That's crazy. That's a lot.
By the way, I don't even know what piping is.
It's like when you take the frosting.
Okay.
When
I know frosting.
When the cake says happy birthday.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. It's frosting calligraphy.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's frosting calligraphy. There you go. Exactly.
Now, for somebody who's never seen the show, how does it work? I know you have, what is it, 10 people, 12 people?
We had 11 bakers.
Okay.
This season is actually, we had 10 episodes. Prior to this, when I hosted season 4, it was, I believe it was 8 bakers. We had 8 episodes. We had 10 episodes. So this season was 11 bakers. And what happens is on an episode, there are 2 bakes. We call it the preheat and then the main heat. What happens in the preheat is we give a challenge. There's a theme for the episode. And the bakers have to bake. The judges taste, and we determine a winner. Whoever wins the preheat gets an advantage for the main heat. I feel
the
like
following round. Okay.
right now. And then in the main heat, Another challenge is issued. The bakers have to bake. We'll throw a twist in there because why not?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then what happens is at the end of the main heat, somebody wins, and whoever's at the bottom goes home.
Okay.
So it's an elimination and almost every episode until
Okay.
the finale, which is the final three bakers.
God, do you ever, because you're hosting this, do you ever watch them and think, thank God I'm the host? I couldn't do this.
Well, I mean, I just feel like that when I slap on my Vans and walk to set. But yeah, I mean, it's over the years, people are like, "Would you ever compete on Chopped?" And I'm like, I mean, like, here's a real question: do I think I'll win? Of course, I'm not gonna win. Yeah, no, that's very, very intense. What's funny too is I do like to cook a lot. I love to grill. I've got a couple grills in a great little backyard. Yesterday when I was doing this Zoom thing with these Oregon berry farmers, part of what we did was baking, and it was real time. And I was like, okay, here we go. And I just did it. I baked something yesterday, and it actually came out pretty darn
What
good.
did you bake?
It was a berry. So the berries we got were, I guess, a varietal of blackberry from the Willamette Valley of Oregon called Marion berries, not the mayor.
Okay.
I know I'm old. I'm dated. I wanted to make that joke, but I think those people not the right for it. So they're called Marion berries. They're like these great blackberries, and just a little FYI, frozen berries are delicious. They're picked right off the bush, and they retain all their flavor and stuff. So I made this cake with it's very basic in some ways. It was, but it was based off a French cake. So flour, eggs. It had lemon zest, olive oil, which added an interesting color. I mean, it's a fat. I mean, you can use vegetable oil. It just happens to be, this was olive oil. Rosemary, and what's really cool, they had rosemary from a garden. So it had a nice savory feel to it. It had yogurt, which actually made it very, very moist, and then the berries in it. Now, this is what I did. What I did was I didn't read all the instructions. I was supposed to take the berries, lay them out on a baking sheet, let them defrost and chop them up. Mine were straight frozen. And I was the guy on the Zoom who was like, excuse me, my berries are totally frozen. It actually ended up being a good thing because, it's kind of like if you're searing a tuna steak and you want to keep it rare, you actually want to pull it right out of the fridge. Same with the filet mignon. You know what I mean? You don't want it too done through, right? So because of it, my cake, the berries retain their moisture and it cooked for a lot longer. So I got this great golden brown, actually not even golden, dark brown color on the outside, and the inside is stupid moist. In fact, I was talking to one of the food blogger people on Instagram, and she's like, I mean, her cake looks amazing, but she was like, mine was like a little on the dry side. Mine was stupid moist. Like even today when I took a picture of it, when I put it on a cutting board, the cutting board's damp from where the cake was. Yeah, it's like totally delicious. And it's got a cup of sugar in it, and I'm like eating it nonstop. I need to stick to brisket. I don't know what.
But how often does that happen when you're baking something and you mess up and it actually works out? Like that's a rare thing that just happens.
I would not recommend the Ali Khan method, but I will say sometimes you roll the dice, and I feel like too. I've been cooking a ton. So, my whole thing with food really started out with writing and, writing about restaurants and stuff. And then with 2020 and COVID, I've been cooking a lot. And it's been very empowering because I've started to use this palette to kind of go, you ultimately I believe you enjoy cooking what you want to eat. And it's cool to kind of get in the driver's seat and direct these flavors a certain way. Like we were making this, it's so crazy. Whatever, this is related to baking. We made this berry sauce and it was soy sauce and brown sugar and ginger. And you cook that down and then you add these berries and then you take it all and you puree it so it's a sauce, run it through a mesh so you get all the seeds and stuff out, and then you add rice vinegar and a chili paste called sambal oelek. I was like, oh my God, this is like the best barbecue sauce ever because it's soy and sugar. It's thick and syrupy and sweet, but it's savory. And all I thought about was making ribs in this sauce. So it's cool,
Was it designed to be a barbecue sauce?
No, well, she called it this umami. Oh, it had star anise in it. She just called it her umami sauce, and we actually made a version of that to put on the shrimp taco. But it's just so interesting, like when you start to cook and you're like, wow, how would I use this? And it's been a really interesting thing. I think because of COVID, just embracing all kinds of cooking methods. We do meal kits and stuff like that. And it's you know what? Like we're trying new meals and getting out of our comfort zone all the time. I always said that about eating in restaurants. Get out of your comfort zone. Order something you normally wouldn't order. Expand your horizons a bit and start to do that with cooking too.
No, that's great. Actually, that's a blessing. I mean, if we're going to be stuck at home, what can we get good at? Or what can we at least like try to see? I'm a terrible chef and I'm doing okay. Nothing exotic. I haven't burned. You know what sucks is I live in a small apartment and my stupid oven, anytime it's after 4:25, forget it. The smoke alarm goes off and then it's
Yeah.
just awkward. So I blame it on my house. That's what I blame it on.
For some reason where we live, there's a lot of like new construction, and we all have the same smoke detectors that all beep. They're so sensitive. It's so frustrating. And what's weird is it's more related to the oven than the stovetop. But I'll tell you, like, very famously, there's a quote by Anthony Bourdain where it's like, if you're cooking, you're cooking a steak right if you set off the smoke detector. One of the best steaks I've ever made technically was a roast. It was a tri-tip roast, California cut, right? You can get it anywhere at Ralph's, all the way to a fancy market. One day I was like, I'm going to cook this thing in my fancy all-clad pan. And I love cooking in olive oil, even though it has a low smoke point. This is when I lived in a loft in downtown LA. I feel comfortable saying this because it's years ago and they can't find me. But basically, I cranked up the all-clad and it's smoking. I rubbed the tri-tip in like rosemary and thyme and oregano and garlic, and I slapped that sucker on, and it's billowing with smoke. And my wife's just like, whoa, okay, this is a little much. And I'm like, nah, it's cool. We're getting
I got this, honey. I got this.
Yeah, I'm like, this steak looks so good. And then the smoke alarms go off. I'm like, ooh, my bad. So I open up the big door into the hallway. We're in a loft building, right? So it's our building, which is like 7 floors, and then it's connected to another building that's like 13, 14 floors. Well, the smoke detector system is connected to both buildings. I set off the smoke alarms in the hallway, which meant 2 LAFD fire trucks pulled up to our building. Now, while this is happening, I'm like, oh my God, it's smoking everywhere. I finished it in the oven, which was my plan. And
dedicated to the craft.
So yeah, still dedicated to the craft. We all evacuate the building. I'm like, mum's the word. And then basically what I found out later was, had they found out it was me, I would have gotten like $1,000.
Oh, they never found out?
Nah, they know it was me. And the tri-tip was, better. I have all kinds of grills. I've got a Traeger. I've got a wood fire grill. I've got a cast iron. That all clad. That was 2 LAFD trucks good.
It was worth it then. It was worth the drama. I thought you were going to tell me you had them over for dinner or something.
You know what's funny? Now that I realize is I should probably go to the LAFD fire station in downtown and offer them some brisket from Austin, Texas, because I owe them one.
They'd probably be so excited to see you on TV. Like, there's our guy. Maybe they know, Allie. Maybe they actually know, and they're just being very diplomatic about it.
That's true. They're like, give him a pass. He's so true.
He's been through a lot. All right. So Spring Baking Championship, like we mentioned earlier, it is in its, I think season 7 now, right?
Season 7. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know the contestants they're all going for this big $25,000 prize, right? At the very, very end.
Yep.
And you are hosting the show.
$5,000 prize. Of course, the title, Spring Baking Champion.
Yeah.
And champion, and a feature in Food Network magazine. So it's the whole enchilada.
Well, I'm happy for you, and I'm excited for the new season. It's on, I think, what is it, Monday nights, I believe?
Monday nights, February 22nd, 9 p.m., 8 Central on Food Network and streaming on Discovery Plus.
Okay. And if people want to follow you personally, is there a best place? Instagram, Facebook,
Absolutely.
Twitter?
At Ali Khan Eats on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole thing. My name plus eats, because that's what I like to do.
That's what he does, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.